Some questions don't have easy answers. Some seasons don't have clear maps. And some of the most important work you'll ever do happens inside. This is Courage and Purpose, the podcast for high achievers moving through reinvention with clarity, courage, and purpose. I'm Diana Ordonez, certified high performance coach, board certified coach, and your host. Now let's begin. Welcome back to the Courage and Purpose podcast. I'm Diana Ordonez, your host, and today I am bringing you a conversation that's been sitting in my drafts since February. I had this conversation with my friend and fellow certified high performance coach, Sean Butner, who you may recall from a previous episode where he talked about his podcast, Creators That Crush. And for weeks, we had been meeting and having conversations about what was going on in the world. And at the time, I don't know about you, but I was feeling so overwhelmed by the political situation, the events that were happening in the world, and they were impacting me in a big way. And we were reflecting on, what do you do in a world that feels like it's on fire? It was about how to stay resourced, how to stay grounded, and how to continue to show up for the people that are counting on you without completely running yourself on empty. At some point in the conversation, I said something that I didn't plan to say. It wasn't a tagline, it wasn't a slogan or something that I scripted out for myself, but it was something that I really felt in my heart. And it was, when you're looking for the good, it allows you to be a part of that good. And so it became the heart of that conversation, and it also moved me forward in a way that I didn't expect. So this episode is about finding the good, not just in the situations around you, but in what good you can do in a world that feels chaotic or scary. And it means using what you already have, whether it be your gifts, your resources, your talents, your skills, your abilities, your current circle of influence. And then to take a step forward and trusting God that He didn't give you those gifts to sit on them, even in a difficult situation, especially in a difficult situation, even now, especially now, because that's what you were gifted with for a reason. And so let's get into it.
So I think the first thing that we wanted to talk about, and how do we thrive in today's world, and how do we show up with all of this uncertainty and chaos, is the shared perspective we have of being certified high performance coaches and helping people perform amidst the chaos. So I was curious, what is your first gut reaction on maybe how high performance is serving you in this moment?
I think one of the things that I really think completely changed the way that I, showed up in any space as a high performer. Even before I left corporate, I started to do a lot of this work, is to be really mindful of my energy and understanding what energy even was or is. Because I think prior to working as a high performance coach, I just thought about energy as how much capacity do I have to do the things that I have to do in any given day. And there's some aspect of that, but also it's, how do people receive you in a room? You actually have an energetic field around you, right? And you are able to influence people when you walk into a room with a certain energy. And so I just became very intentional about, how do I want people to feel around me, and how do I manage my own energy? That means, how do I generate the energy that I want to bring to a room? And so it went from the basics that were, am I sleeping enough? Am I eating enough? Am I exercising enough? Because we understand that we need to replenish and be able to release energy. Before, it was like, okay, I need to exercise because I want to feel healthier and be fit. But then I realized, also, in times like these, when you're dysregulated and you have all this pent up emotion, or whether it be anger or sadness or just frustration, exercise is actually a great way to release some of that pent up
Mm-hmm.
energy. You can't solve the problem necessarily in order for those feelings to just go away, but you do need to kind of release them and to be intentional about, especially when all these difficult conversations are happening, is hey, when I walk into that room or when I have this conversation, I want this person to walk away feeling seen, validated, like I come in peace. Like
Right.
I'm coming at this from a place of love, or I want them to feel hopeful and to also have the spaces where I can be true and real to what's going on inside of me. Because if you're walking around with a bunch of sadness and you're not able to like cry about it or speak the truth of what's going on, you're also almost like a ticking time bomb, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, I think energy probably is the first thing that comes to mind, not just from a matter of managing it, generating it, but how people receive it and how to be intentional about it.
Mm-hmm.
We work with things like breathing and jumping up and down and clapping our hands. It's just the concept of how much our physiology is going to impact how we feel as much as how we feel is going to impact how much we are able to do with our bodies, right? It's like
Yeah.
it doesn't just go one way. For so long, I really thought it was all in the mind. Our physiology matters so much.
I agree with it, and I love that because in this chaotic environment, there's so much stuff that's out of our control that is
Mhm.
pouring in anxiety, pouring in fear, pouring in helplessness, pouring in anger and frustration, and we need to move it out of our bodies. If it stays in you, it will poison you, and so that's kind of how
Mm.
I view it. So you need to like exercise it, breathe it out, like burn it out with the sun, all the things we talk about as coaches to help improve your energy because you're also an input of energy into everyone around you. So if you have all this stuff coming into you and you don't let it sit and poisons you, you're now another vector of bad emotions and energy for your family and friends and people you
Mhm.
want to be experiencing joy with, and I think so often people don't think about the downstream impacts of their energy as a
Mhm.
leader, as someone that creates things for a living, as someone that's just out in the world at a coffee shop. I still remember this. This happened like 7 years ago. I was at one of my local favorite places in my neighborhood, and this lady ordered a cappuccino, and it wasn't
Mhm.
made to her specification. And instead of being like, hey, like, I think you might have messed this up, she's like screaming in the middle of this public place at how incompetent the people are. And it's like, this is our community. Like, that's not right. The whole place is quiet and looking at this lady having a fit because someone made a coffee wrong. Like,
Mm.
that impacted everyone in that building, but more so like the response after that. I told the barista like, "Hey, you're doing great. I don't know what's wrong with her," and she's like, "Yeah, this is every Thursday." I'm like,
Aw.
"Every Thursday, this person comes in to berate everyone. Like, what is wrong with that person? And I feel like that what is wrong with these people is the feeling that, especially when you don't have control over other people, it's that feeling like, but like, why do I still remember that happening
Mm.
7 years ago? And it's because it made me angry seeing this happen to people that do very nice things. Like, people that give me caffeine are my friends. Like, it's just a rule of the world. And so, why would you do this to my friends? Like, that's kind of like how I internalize that. But it's that energy thing, being contagious, and
You know,
feeling like we need to respond to it maybe as a way to counterbalance it is another angle of this. But it moved the energy from me into something more productive, which I think is another maybe coaching trick of these emotions are a call to action to do something.
mm, I'm glad that you brought this up for two reasons. The first one that came up for me is it's about how important it is that we heal our own stuff and how we manage our
Mm-hmm.
own energy. Because yes, it sucks that that person was so nasty, right? But even just like yesterday, right? I'm driving my car. This woman practically swerves into my lane and then honks her horn at me and gives me a nasty look. I'm just like, my first instinct is to want to be like, what is wrong with people? Right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're like working through your own stuff and you've started to heal some of your own pain, it becomes easier to see, oh, this person is in some pain, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I realized in that moment, instead of like when I caught myself wanting to be like, what's wrong with her? I was
Mm-hmm.
like, you know what? You're probably in so much pain and you can't see it and you can't bring it to anyone. And I just kind of like sent her a prayer. Like, you know what? I'm really so sorry that you're carrying whatever it is that you're carrying.
Mm-hmm.
And I pray that you heal. Because it sounds so weird to say that now because I used to hear people say that and like
Mm-hmm.
roll my eyes, honestly.
Yeah.
I did. And it's because I realized how, like, by doing my own work, how much pain I had been carrying around that I refused to see, that I refused to address,
Mm-hmm.
that I wasn't allowed to address, and that I thought I shouldn't or couldn't because I had to just keep moving through it. That I realized if that's how much stuff I was dragging along, imagine how much stuff is
Yeah.
being dragged along by so many people because we're not taught to see people. We're taught to tell them what's wrong with you, keep moving
Mm-hmm.
forward. If we see someone starting to get upset, we try to like fix it so that they won't cry. Like negative
Mm-hmm.
feelings are not embraced. People are angry,
Mm-hmm.
sad, whatever. I don't know when we lost, our ability to like be okay with anger and sadness and all these things because I feel like that's a natural thing that we just started to deem as wrong, right? We started to stop crying, stop yelling, stop this, stop that. And yes, it makes sense that we learn to cope with our feelings in a healthy way. But I catch myself having negative response to negative feelings from my daughter, where I just want to be like, no, it's okay. We're gonna fix it in this other way. She's upset
Mm-hmm.
about something that seems so, minuscule. Like I give her the cup that she doesn't like to have her milk out of. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel like the milk tastes the same.
Yeah. Right.
And it's like at some point we lost the ability to empathize with somebody else's experience if we don't understand it,
Mm-hmm.
right?
And
Like,
what's coming up for me too is like not only is it could be an empathy thing, but it's also a boundary thing. I think the coaching lessons, I'm in control of how I feel. I'm not going to accept that you cut me off because you're pissed off about your life. And it takes one person to not engage to prevent
mhm,
it from escalating, right? Because you didn't lay on the horn and
mhm.
give them double birds and like started yelling out your window and like tailgating them, like that didn't escalate into a car crash or
Mhm, mhm.
a scary confrontation with people, screaming in each other's faces and being able to just. I mean, I love I'm not gonna take whatever's going on. I know you're probably hurting, and that's not my responsibility. I can show up and okay, water under the bridge. I think is one of these like coaching lessons for the moment. When I think about CHPC and relating to that, it's knowing yourself, knowing how you're showing up, and choosing and intentionally directing and showing up as the person you want to be. I don't want to be a yeller about coffee or cutting people off or, I get that from you also in our conversations. So, how do we show up as our best selves? Or the character, I think, maybe is the thread through this part of
Yeah.
how do you
Yeah.
thrive in this world
So
now.
for example, in the story with my daughter, right?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, your daughter is going to be a different case because it's a child. But honestly, how many of us from childhood did not learn how to express their emotions in a healthy way, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so part of the work is to be able to show up for her emotion and say, hey, you really wanted that cup. It's really
Mm-hmm.
disappointing when you have to drink the milk out of this other, even if I don't understand, if I
Mm-hmm.
can just at least understand that something about having a different cup today is feeling really sad. It's making you angry because you can't do anything about it because mom gets to decide and you don't get to decide. That's really
Mm-hmm.
upsetting. Maybe if she had just like thrown the cup or something at me, that obviously would not
Mm-hmm.
be okay. Right? Like,
Yeah.
don't throw things. We're going to pick this up now as a natural consequence. But still be able to teach, we do this, we express our feelings this way,
Mm-hmm.
this is what's coming up, and it's okay to feel that way. You don't because what happens is the woman might have cut me off and I choose not to respond, and if I don't know how to process out the emotion of the moment, I will
Mm-hmm.
continue to carry that through my day. And at some
Mm-hmm.
point down the road, you're right, like you will boil over and take it out on your family and friends. So it's not just the boundary of how you want to behave or not behave, but also the skill of like being able to be with a negative emotion, because part of the reason we have people that are responding that way in the world is that they don't know how to deal with the negative emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And so they respond in these big ways. And the way I kind of look at it is it's that 9 or 12-year-old that never learned that's still doing the same thing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so when you say show up as your best self, the goal for me would be to always show up with compassion and empathy.
Mm-hmm.
And my pastor said this thing that I really loved, and I think it's still applicable in this scenario, which is some of us are trying not to be too generous because, in quotes, too
Mm-hmm.
generous because they're afraid that they're going to get taken advantage of. And it's like, if you haven't been taken advantage of until now, this far, you're not being generous enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's powerful because, especially for me, one of the things that has been hard in everything that's happening is that some of the things that are being done in the name of Christianity. And as a Christian, I just don't see how that's possible
Mm-hmm.
because if you are being like Jesus, you are not worried about being taken advantage of. You are generous to the point that you give your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
For the people that don't deserve it. And so if I want to be more like Jesus, that's the approach that I'm going to be taking anytime that I interact with people. And so, yeah, maybe she didn't deserve, compassion or grace because look how she gave. No, like that's something you give freely and openly. To be
Mm-hmm.
generous with love is not something that I want to move away from as a Christian. Like when we talk about being in alignment with our values and being intentional about how we show up, that is what I choose as my bar for myself, right?
Yeah, and I think this dovetails into the second part of the conversation we wanted to have today is that we show up for our character. You're talking about being your best self, the values that you embody, and you talk about leading your daughter through that negative emotion. You talk about leading the situation where you got cut off in a way that is aligned with your best self. And I know you've been doing a lot of work on that choice of when something happens, does your best self show up or does the person, not that you already are, like there's this higher calling to be aligned
Mm.
in your values, and then there is your gut human reaction that might be laced with profanities in the moment, to try to address the situation where you feel threatened or perceived threatened. And so this act of being your best self, like we do as coaches through the high performance work, but then going out and from that work leading the way for others
Hmm.
and leading the way for your best self to show up and light the way for others, I think is very fascinating. What do you think about that?
Yeah. So what I heard you describe is what I would actually describe as like a fight or flight response versus a
Mm-hmm.
very grounded response. And so the fight or flight response is I received some stimulus and now I'm not really thinking through how I'm going to respond. My body immediately wants to respond in this, either I'm going to fight this person, flip them off, scream at them,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, or I'm going to just avoid them, or I'm going to do what they say. I'm going to fawn because we have tendencies to go one way or the other depending on what our experiences have been. And so the work I've done is really about creating the space between the stimulus and the fight or flight response to be able to be grounded in how I want to respond. And it's hard to do that at first, but it does start with starting to get very mindful or have a lot of awareness about what are the situations that trigger me and
Mm-hmm.
how do I know I'm triggered? Like, what does my body feel in that moment? And so, does my heart start racing? Do my fists clench? Do my hands get sweaty? Does my jaw clench up? Do I sense that I'm grunting through my words? It's like if I could start to create that space, then I have tools that I can use to ground me, because this happens like more than I care to admit, right? It's happened to me in my life a lot, where I've had an immediate reaction to some behavior of Mia's, whether it be she screamed at me or she threw
Mm-hmm.
something, or if you're getting even more big behaviors, like maybe there's hitting or slapping that goes on, like there's that stimulus will automatically set you on fire if especially if you have like a history of that. And so for me it's like I know when this happens I need to like breathe through it and create some distance.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise I am not my best self, right, in that
Mm-hmm.
situation. And I would love to say that the moment I learned that, it was like next day I was like ready to go to be super
Mm-hmm.
mom from that point forward. But it takes time, because what happens is we're in our patterns, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
and the only thing that breaks the pattern is breaking the pattern, right? And so the thing about that is that people do not do what we tell them to do, especially our kids. What influences the most is to be a role model, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
if you look at the biggest role models in anybody's life, like the thing that really moved us to make a difference in our own lives was like observing the fruits of their character. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
when they did this, either it impacted me in such a way that I felt very seen, or I admired them so much for their ability to do those things. It was never because of a lecture, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Especially if the lecture didn't align to what I was seeing. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I hate to bring it back to this because it's not like a talk about religion today, but when we talk about being in alignment with values, there's a lot of people that very well could be in alignment with Christian beliefs, but when they see the fruits of the people that are saying that they have these values, they're like, no way, I don't want to be that. Like, I don't want to do
Mm-hmm.
that. That is hurting people. That is hateful. That is not what aligns with my values. And
Mm-hmm.
I would say that they're not going to listen to what you're saying. They're going to look at what you're doing. Right.
Yeah.
And
And
so,
that's what I wanted to highlight that point. It's your character is how you show up and what you do in the moment. And that's the key. And that's how that informs how your kids will behave moving forward. That informs how your friends will treat you. That informs how you relate to siblings. And I think it boils down to a choice. This is what I like was thinking while you were talking is we will either add to the chaos around us or we will be the person that stabilizes. And we have so many people right now very vocally contributing to the chaos, trying to muddy up the waters, trying to do things that, like you said, are misaligned values for things that we identify with, right? And you can't convince people that you're a kind person if you keep kicking puppies, right? Like that's a terrible analogy, but you know,
But I'm glad you brought this up because there's people on both sides,
yeah,
right?
it's not a yeah.
Yeah, whatever side you're on, there are people that are not leading in ways that are going to unite people. They're leading in ways that are going to divide them further. And the thing about it is, like, when I see people that are doing it really well, or in my opinion, people like Jenna Kutcher or, well, okay. My fiance and I both say we don't like Bad Bunny's lyrics. We don't like his music. It's just not our jam. We didn't like the dancing, fine. But what we really loved about the halftime show is that he could have chosen to divide even further. There was so many attacks on him, and rather than attacking back and saying why they're wrong, saying why they're hurtful, saying why they don't know what they're talking about, saying what's wrong with people, he didn't choose to do any of that. He chose to be centered on love and on unity, and he said, together we are America, right? And so if you look at the other side of that display during the halftime show, they're representing, in quotes, Jesus, but Jesus was about unity and love. And yet the whole reason they were doing it was because they wanted to isolate and reject and hate on a whole group of people and an artist that represents them because they're the number one artist, in the country. Whether I like them or not doesn't matter, right? The majority of people are enjoying his music. And again, there's things that I don't like about his lyrics. There's things that I don't like about the dancing. But you know what? Like, the message is a leadership message of, you know what? I'm still going to rise up and I'm still going to bring people together because love is stronger than fear. It is the energy that moves people to become better than they were yesterday. Because if you look at even any of your mentors or anybody that's made a big impact in your life, I know for me, my mentor and boss, like, he made me want to be better the more he saw the greatness in me, as opposed to the way I grew up, which was continuing to highlight what's wrong with me and what I'm not doing enough of. And so I think that's the difference in leadership. And while I know that a lot of creators and leaders right now are trying their best to do the right thing, to move people to the right side, the problem is people don't respond to shaming and guilting and belittling and being told they're wrong and what's wrong with them in a positive way. Like that right away is going to set us on a fight or flight kind of path. And so it's like, while I understand, and so many other points I agree with, right? Like, I agree with you. This is wrong. This is hurtful. We can't be supporting this. But if the person on the other side of the argument doesn't feel seen, doesn't feel cared for, important, whatever, they are just going to fight you back. They're going to double down, right? And it's like people that I really respect and admire and have a lot of good things to say about these people and their values and everything. And I just think that the emotions are so strong right now that they know better and they're not showing up that way. And we've talked about this too, about how in politics right now, it's so needed that these leaders rise up. And that's one of the things I think Tallarico does really well. He will be in a very difficult argument where the person is clearly on the other side and he can meet them there. He can say, I understand why this is a real concern for you. right? Like he can really validate what they're feeling and why it's important and not isolate them or belittle them for
Mm-hmm.
that question or for that opinion, and just give them perspective with kindness and grace.
Yeah.
Something
Yeah.
that, I'm sorry, but our president doesn't do, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. And I think so. We're talking about James Tirico. We're talking about the NFL halftime show. And I think this is actually a really good loop to the final point we wanted to talk about today is how do you create in a world that is divisive and chaotic and a lot of times negative, right? And I think you hit it right. I don't want to blow past that point that you were just making, as I think it really fits to answer this question: is how do we create in this environment? And you take a look at James Tirico. He has done the work to be the best version of his self and align with his values. He has stepped into public leadership, running for public office, talking about his faith and how he sees everything that's going on. And the things that he creates, the conversations and questions that he answers, are aligned with his himself and the impact he wants out in the world. He cares for other people.
Yeah.
Cares if you don't agree with him. He wants to understand and then provide another thing. And that's kind of like the third thing of how do you create in this? You need to be aligned with yourself. You need to channel that energy of everything coming into you to lead and create the world that we want. And so that's kind of how I've seen all our our work working together in a nice bow. But just as someone can choose to create things that tries to understand and bring together, there are other folks like in the administration that are creating these horrific commercials of people having their rights trampled, people being abused in the name of us, in the name of the United States. And I think once you see that there's a conscious choice in how you're communicating or what you're actually doing in the world, it's really hard to believe that you shouldn't be creating, you shouldn't be leading, you shouldn't be trying to improve yourself. And it can sound really flippant, and these are big things: making stuff, leading, and helping yourself show up as your best self. Almost seems like you should discount because it's not important compared to everything, but it is the most important thing we can do. What
Yeah.
do you think about that?
When we talk about like creating, you know, Jenna Kutcher's posts actually have moved me to
Mm,
want to do something more, because it isn't about just the politicians. Like our voices do matter, and I think people have unique gifts. And so when we talk about creation, yeah, from your perspective, content creation is a big part of that, because I think everyone's voice is different. Everyone needs to hear it in a different way, and you might be the person that person feels most aligned with, that will be
mm-hmm,
willing to listen, right? And so I think that's important, but also create in general. I think some of us are feeling like we can't do anything. I think part of the fear culture that's happening right now is putting all of us in that fight or flight mode of helplessness. I can't do anything.
mm-hmm,
One of the things that I want to challenge everyone on that's listening is, no matter what you do, no matter where you're leading, no matter what your unique talent, gift, ability is, if you look for the good, like that's what I loved about her post. It wasn't just like,
mm-hmm,
hey, this is everything that's wrong right now, and let me rile you up so you do something. It's also like, look at all the beautiful people that are
mm-hmm,
doing such beautiful things to help through this dark time. And so it's like, looking for the good allows you to also be part of the good. It's like,
mm-hmm,
I coach people through seasons where they want to reinvent themselves, right? They want to pursue new careers. They go through a life changing event, or they want to start a business, or moments where they realized, you know what, I'm no longer in alignment with myself and I want to do something different. And I remember as a coach, I had a moment where I was struggling because my nervous system was like on fire, right? I'm scrolling through disaster after disaster, like things that are very triggering to a nervous system, especially somebody that like highly empathizes with the
Mm-hmm.
with people in a way that feels like I can't do anything about it, right? I was in that space
Mm-hmm.
and still coaching and feeling like, how can I just be coaching this
Mm-hmm.
woman on how to bring flowers to bring joy to the world when this is going on?
Mm-hmm.
And my therapist was just like, you are coaching her on something that will touch on all the other areas of her life, and you are
Yeah.
helping her find the joy in the darkness. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, that is your gift, and by you bringing that gift, you will help her with all these other areas too, and find hope and find a silver lining and the next step. And it's like, you know what, all of us have that. All of us have
Mm-hmm.
that song inside us that people need to hear to be able to connect with the emotion of what's happening. It's the artist that has that painting in their mind that is going to move people to do something. It's that photographer, it's that
Mm-hmm.
programmer that is able to develop an app that helps people move through this in some way. It's that marketer that's able to help the good people get their message out there. It's the florist that brings flowers to the families that are suffering just to bring more color to their day. Like whatever it is that you do, it does make a difference,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so it's like, you matter in this darkness. So when you start to feel hopeless or helpless and like you can't create, or it can't be all about this particular moment when you have, say, a business to run or work to do, how do you bring those gifts and abilities and still bring your light into that darkness, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think to paraphrase it too, there's two things you can do if you're being impacted by everything going on, right? And you're really
Mhm.
feeling it. You can, like Mr. Rogers, I think also said this, look to the helpers, the people
Yeah.
running in to help, because the example and everything blown apart are the what's wrong, what to fear, how to feel bad
Mhm.
about stuff. But in the edges, there are people running towards leading the way to help.
Mhm.
And if you feel so inspired, join them. Become
Yeah.
that part of that group of people running towards the fire to help people get out, that's running towards the collapsed building to help dig other people out. Because in a big way, in a small way, collectively, it really does add up. You know, if I only do one push up today, that's one push up done in the
Yeah.
world. But if a million people do one push up, that's a million push ups put out in the world. It's maybe not the best analogy, but the scale, though, of everyone doing one kind of action can have a really great impact. So
Absolutely.
that's the challenge I think we're trying to imbibe. Like, feel the light, see the light, then go out and be the light.
Yeah. And it does take a little bit of courage, and courage can feel overwhelming sometimes. And so I do want to still say, what is one way that you can also support yourself to be able to generate the energy to be the light? You know, as I was thinking about this, I was thinking about like with the teachers, right? Like I
Mm-hmm.
imagine how many teachers must be like, how can I teach math today with what
Mm-hmm.
kids are dealing with? And it's like, yeah, you'll teach math with greater empathy. And how do you see a child today when you teach math, right? And because courage and going into the fire feels so big sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so it's like, maybe it's the little thing today, and the little things guide the way, maybe till you get more and more courage and things become clearer. It's like they say, you know, take a step into the fog and the next step becomes clearer.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's part of this challenge. It's not like, okay, you may not feel like running into the fire today, How do you do some tapping or breathing or resting or laying off your phone for a little while so that you can regenerate the energy? How do I want to influence this world today? And maybe it's just with your kid or your spouse or your friend, you know?
Yeah. And that's enough. And that's good.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, all right. Well, thank you so much. I'm so glad we had this conversation, Diana.
Thanks, Sean. This was great. That's a wrap on that conversation with Sean. Thank you for listening all the way through. If that episode resonated with you, the one thing I want to leave you with is that the reset, it's not a one-time event. It's a daily practice. And it's a lot easier to do when you're not doing it alone. And that's why I created the Reset Collective. The Reset Collective is a free community of people that are committed to showing up for their lives, their work, and the people they love without running on empty. Every day we check in with ourselves and we look for the 3 wins, the 3 things we're grateful for, and we set an intention for the next day. That's it. A small, consistent practice to continue to ground ourselves daily so that we can practice together how to look for the good. If that's what you need, come join us. I'm in there every day sharing my own daily reset, and I'd love to start reading yours. It's free, and the link is in the show notes or in my bio at lifeonpurpose.coach. I'm glad you're here, and I hope to see you inside. Till next time. Thank you for being here. If today's episode resonated, take the free Reinvention Readiness Assessment at www.lifeonpurpose.coach/reinvention-assessment. 5 minutes that will show you exactly where you are in your reinvention and what you need right now. And if you want people around you doing this work too, come join the Reset Collective. It's free. The link is in the show notes. Until next time, keep choosing courage.